Oh boy, hey there, it's the Raw wrap-up from the Wrestling Mayhem show, ready to do this right now. I'm Mike Sorg at Sorgatron here in Pittsburgh, PA at Mayhem Central, ready to, like I said, we do things usually WrestlingMayhemShow.com, live.WrestlingMayhemShow.com about 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You can join us for the main show, for the big talk, but we'd like to get some quick reactions from the crew here. Joining me, as usual, on a Monday evening from Poughkeepsie, New York, it's Mad Mike.
The boss is in the building, Sorg.
Oh,
I'm not talking
man.
about Stephanie.
No. Awesome. Also joining us, he's from the mainstream media. He's also does the mainstreammat.blogspot.com. It's Matt Carlins. How you doing?
What's up, Sorg? Another fine night here of professional wrestling action.
Awesome. So let's get into it. Tonight was a night of, I want to say a little bit of renewal. First, let's touch base. You know, the Open Challenge with John Cena has been a hotly contested and talked about thing over the past couple of weeks, especially this past week on the Wrestling Mayhem show, and we've had a lot of great responses. But even Justin LaBar putting out an article on Trib Live about that and what that has done, and you know, whether we're booing John Cena is you know, appropriate anymore. But tonight we had kind of a I'm sorry?
It was tonight.
It was tonight. Very interesting. So we had a three-way match between Kevin Owens, Cesaro, and Rusev to see who took him on in the Open Challenge. In a very blown-up Rusev moved on. Great match on both sides, I think. More story-wise with John Cena, I think, obviously. Makes you wonder what's going to happen. Now you have these two guys in play when we have Kevin Owens against Cena on Sunday. So I don't think we're getting a straight-up match.
Rusev got the most effective offense against John Cena tonight in the 10 minutes that match was than he did their entire feud earlier this year.
Okay, I'll get that. And we did have the debut on, we did have the debate on whether Rusev was a good wrestler to begin with over his latest run. But I'm in the pro Rusev camp myself. I think the whole thing worked very well. But anyways, other than that, it was interesting. You know, hey, it was a nice, you know, crazy long segment, and you know, they're right. It was a lot of competition, you know, tonight, and that's what we need to get back to the wrestling, as we've seen, and we've seen great matches over the last few years, and a little bit of focus on that. What did you guys, Matt? What did you think of the Open Challenge situation?
I thought it was probably the most productive 40 minutes or so of television that WWE's done in a really long time, because by the time that bad boy was over, I mean, Owens was, you know, in a good spot, Cesaro's in a good spot, Rusev comes out looking great, Cena's doing calisthenics during the three-way match looking like a big jerk.
Honestly,
but Rusev comes out looking just awesome, which is a great thing to do, because, I hate whenever they go to all this trouble to they build these guys up, and then they get that big loss and they just throw them away. You don't have to do that. Don't just throw Rusev away, man. You put in all this time. Keep him strong. I looked at three guys in there tonight, and Cesaro and Owens and Rusev, and I'm like, these guys are the half step below the main event. These are the guys right here, along with, you know, your typical, you know, Reigns and Ambrose. And you can lump in Wyatt there if you're a Wyatt guy. But that's your sub-main event right there. Throw those three guys right into that mix and see who rises to the top at this point.
Right. And I feel like what they've done with Rusev through his injury really kind of kept him on TV and kept him interesting, right? Like
it made his because he was always good at the character work, but now without Lana, he was actually able to shine himself, because Summer Rae isn't so overbearing of a presence that she outshines Rusev. She's a good compliment.
Exactly. So the split was more to put him in a spot by himself, and not, you know, really kind of just make two hopeful cash cows between Rusev and Lana just being separate things. So, or do we end up with at SummerSlam the Macho Man Elizabeth WrestleMania 7 style return.
No. I think at SummerSlam we're getting C.J. Perry and Dolph Ziggler. I really think that.
Well, there's that.
She renounces her Russian citizenship. There's going to be vignettes of her taking the citizenship test, her meeting Anna Kendrick, which is by rights as an American thing you can do.
All right, let's take it down to Divas. Of course, we had a big showing. Did we? So were we just presenting? I feel like we're ending up with a three-way Survivor Series match or something here, as we've kind of paired off into factions of three. Did we just establish a Divas Trios division by accident tonight?
I don't think there was an accident. It was really interesting. I feel so bad for Bayley, though.
Yes.
Because Bayley was probably originally supposed to be in this spot, but Becky Lynch is just as awesome. So, but I thought it was kind of weird to have Sasha Banks side with Naomi and Tamina. I don't think that is a credit to her. I don't think that's a good thing.
No, and I think it's like we need to squeeze her in here, and that was the last thing that made sense, right?
Well, I mean, you could have just had Charlotte and Sasha come up to side with Paige.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they've had Naomi interact with the Bellas the past couple weeks.
Right. What do you think? What do you think of the Diva situation, man?
I thought it was a little bit. Yeah, kind of with Mike. It was a little bit weird that they went that next step further. I really like the idea of like just two girls to team with Paige to take on the Bellas. That felt like, two girls. That's not too many, and you still. I'm starting to worry about NXT now. I'm like, what are we gonna do without these girls on NXT? I guess we'll be all right. But yeah, it was one of those deals where. It was just weird. It was exciting to see them all on the show. I guess my initial feeling, basically for months, as we've discussed, when these girls from NXT were going to get called up to the main roster, has been dread. I won't deny that. But they didn't do anything actively wrong tonight. It was fine. And now Sasha and Charlotte and Becky Lynch are on my TV every Monday, I assume, and that can't be a bad thing. Until it becomes a bad thing, but hopefully that won't happen. I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to try not to let this reflex action. I got to hold this back.
There's two things that happen, because I mean there is that problem of NXT has become this great thing and NXT needs a tour, and how do we keep the interest there without just shoveling all the good stuff to Raw and leaving just a wasteland in NXT? And then I think you're going to have a crossover, I think, for a long time with the girls that we saw tonight, Kevin Owens, etc., right? But this is also going to be a huge test of our theory of, just divas coming up and getting destroyed. What needs to happen is, with the influx of female talent that just came up, you need to have two significant divas matches every Monday night now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, at this point, I'll settle for one. I mean, that's the most important. That's what the next step in this whole thing has to be, right? It has to be one of those three girls going out there and having like just an NXT level blowout women's wrestling match on Raw, and let's see how it goes. And maybe that's why Sorg. Maybe that's why they deliberately split off Sasha from Charlotte and Becky, because they want to showcase that match. They want to showcase that Sasha versus Charlotte or Sasha versus Becky match, because maybe those other women on the roster aren't quite ready to let it rip like that.
Right, and that's going to light a fire, I think, under everybody. If you put those two in there, and if they have an takeover level match like they've had on a Monday night, I think that's the other thing I noticed. I don't think the crowd really knew who Becky Lynch was, for instance, but they will. I'm not too worried about that. The way she was introduced, she was the lesser of them. Obviously, Charlotte and Sasha are more established. If you're not going to know any of them, it's going to be those two. And we got to see I mean, when's the last time you saw like a diva spot like that end in submissions? right? Impressive submissions. Like, it was a very indie kind of spot there. And I don't know. I love it, and I welcome it. And I really hope we get good things out of this division in the future.
The only thing that worked against Becky is that it's not a simple introduction for Becky. With Charlotte, it's here's Ric Flair's daughter. With Sasha Banks, it's here's the NXT Women's Champion. And with unfortunately Becky doesn't have that one phrase introduction where you're like. You can't just be like, here's this lady who is awesome. Just trust us.
But they've been introduced, and hopefully if you have your network for the pay-per-views, $9.99, you look them up and you see the amazing matches they've all had in recent months.
I kind of wish after this, like after Raw tonight, they had a network special of like the match between Sasha and Becky from the last takeover. Like if they knew this was happening, instead of showing Swerved, which no one cares about, they should have shown, like, hey, you know all these new divas we just showed you? Tune into the network right after Raw to see this baller match they had.
Well, and I think you point out a bigger hole in this, because you called out, while they did announce after that about NXT TakeOver on Raw, they didn't mention, oh, by the way, these two are going to have a match on NXT this week, Cash Out Wednesday on the network. Why aren't they pushing that? That doesn't make sense to me. Where's the disconnect here? But anyways, that's a production thing. I don't want to get into
all the things they have to plug.
Yeah, exactly.
Plug your own stuff.
Exactly. And I feel like sometimes I think somebody's just letting that fall by the wayside. And it could be politics, it could be something else, it could be some other production weird reason, like we kind of dived into a little bit before about what we were talking about, Impact and ROH stuff on other shows. So.
I also wasn't listening to all of Cena's commentary. Did he mention that he's in a movie this weekend?
I don't know.
I know that the John Cena that will be portrayed in Trainwreck is not necessarily the John Cena that's for children, but still, you should mention it.
I feel like they're not going to mention it until the movie does a good box office this weekend.
It's not going to.
No, it's not. No, it's not. But even if it gets good reviews or something, and Cena's out doing publicity, then they'll be like, hey, look at all the publicity Cena did in this movie, which he's probably not going to do much since he had pretty much a big part in it. But still, I think it's kind of an after-the-fact thing. You know what? You know why they don't mention it in advance? They don't mention it in advance because Trainwreck didn't pay WWE. Most likely.
I guess
that's what it is. Cena got the part, and I don't think it had anything to do with WWE Films, for instance.
Okay.
But so after the fact, after you find out the movie did something to make your guy look good, you throw out the bragging rights, but you don't put that in advance because you pay for that. You pay for that opportunity to say, hey, make sure you watch this movie. John Cena's in it. No matter how good that makes WWE do.
John Cena was in the #1 rated comedy of the weekend. Because it's not gonna be the top movie.
But that's exactly what it's gonna be. It's not gonna beat Ant-Man, but it's gonna be you're right, the #1 rated comedy. That's exactly how they're gonna pitch it, and it has to help them, and they have to pay to get on Raw. I mean, that's just the way it is. And that deal was not struck, so there you go. We could have had the star of the.
We could have had Amy Schumer hosting Raw.
Yeah, wouldn't that be amazing to have Amy Schumer host Raw? Maybe she's not a wrestling fan. Who knows? But anyways.
Well, she dated Ziggler.
Oh, that's right.
She knows a little bit. I mean.
Anyways.
You could have had Amy Schumer accompany Dolph to the ring against.
Aside from that, there was a few other matches, and nothing I think worth noting for the most part. But the biggest thing, of course, Lesnar and Seth Rollins set up for this weekend at Battleground. I really like that we really kind of pared down the Authority. It is Rollins on its own. I know we have our speculations on that. I don't want to get too deep into it. But good cappers for the show. Somebody tweeted along with that, between everything that we talked about tonight, they listed, and if you had those and killed the filler, it would have been an awesome 2-hour Raw.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it was a great, because the first hour, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You can skip the first hour of Raw. Just skip it and start whenever, like, Stephanie comes out for the Bella segment.
Right.
That's it.
Right. I mean, they're really good about writing an adequate to good 2-hour Raw, but then you put that into 3 hours and have to fill in that space, and it just becomes a blah 3-hour Raw no matter what happens. Even if you have your awesome Cesaro Cena match, it's still buried in there. And what do you remember? And I think it's between all this talk about like USA thinks wrestling's on the decline, maybe the best thing for us if they cut that extra hour.
Or fill it with, I don't know, Tough Enough.
Yeah.
Since it's having shitty ratings.
Didn't it have and didn't
You
it
have
also
a live Tough Enough before Raw inside the Raw arena? That's how you do that program. That's how you.
But to have,
that's how you do
10,000 people though just sitting there and watching segments for the first hour. I wouldn't be happy about that.
No, have them do the segments in the arena, and maybe break it up with a match of like Paige or one of the trainers or the superstar that interacted with the Tough Enough people.
I don't
or
think
put it in a different environment, Sorg. You could put it outside. You could put it up in one of the concourses or something like that, and kind of have like a mob of people around. You could do something different.
You could be filming it separately, and like SmackDown's recording in the arena, is what you're saying.
Or Superstars is recording.
Yeah.
Because they still film Superstars.
That's what I mean.
Guys.
Superstars. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I mean, and then have like you film the 2 matches for Superstars, then you have the live segment for Raw for Tough Enough right before Raw,
right?
Where you have the vote, and you can have people in the arena cheer for these Tough Enough kids and vote for them. Like, that's a way to really see if they're ready for this.
Right, and as I'll talk about, they are really big about using social media in the live events, for instance. But I'll be talking about that actually on Basic Sorgonomics. We'll be sharing that. Guys, thanks for joining me. Talking Raw here just after the show. Let us know what you thought of Monday Night Raw. Hit us up at Mayhem Show on the Twitters, Facebook as well. Big shouts to our friends, SliceOnBroadway.com. Hit us up at ProWrestlingTees.com/WMS. Also, our Spreadshirt Mayhem Wear store with the new Don't Be a Smart Ass t-shirt is available. Click on the Bullet Club or Mayhem Club Bullet Club-ish shirt over at WrestlingMayhemShow.com. And please also do all the things. Patreon, please donate if you find value in this. Just as much as you can, a penny, 5 cents, whatever the case may be, per every main episode of Wrestling Mayhem Show, which is once a week, not a big deal. And every little bit helps to support the show. Mad Mike, he's at Mad Mike 4883. How you and I don't know, what do you want people to tweet you about?
Tweet me about Total Divas. Tweet me about Tough Enough. Tweet me about any wrestling that happens on Wednesday nights, because Matt Carlins and myself, we do the Midweek War.
That's right, and definitely go check that out. Some tremendous coverage of all that crazy stuff happening on Wednesday night.
And if you want to follow my live tweeting adventures on Wednesday night, just follow the hashtag MM for Mad Mike.
Exactly. And, of course, Matt Carlins, he's mainstreammatt.blogspot.com and mainstreammatt with 1 T on the Twitters as well. Anything coming up? Anything you want to plug real quick?
5 hours of wrestling on Wednesday night, Sorg. That's what I got going on.
Survive it. But
tomorrow I watch the Mayhem Show proper. Wednesday night I watch 5 hours of wrestling. Thursday night we do the Midweek War. My life is planned for me.
It's all good.
This is my life.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I'm living the dream.
We'll see you guys next time. Please subscribe. All the links, WrestlingMayhemShow.com. See you next time, and thanks for joining us for the Raw Wrap-Up.